Hi, my name is Grace Garza, and I will be teaching on the Synoptic Gospels and John. Let's begin with the definition of the word synoptic, which derives from the Greek, meaning able to be seen together. The word gospel being translated in the New Testament from the Greek is euangelion. This is a compound word having the first part of eu, meaning good, and the second part is angelion, which means announcement or good news. Therefore, the gospel means good news. Now, let's take a deeper look, and I will be focusing on three main topics. What are the gospels? Can we believe the gospels? What is the reason for the gospels? What are the gospels? The four gospels of the New Testament are Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. The synoptics usually are referred to as Matthew, Mark, and Luke, as they have many similarities between them while depicting the life of Jesus. The book of John, however, is not part of the synoptics due to the unique way it was written describing how God became man. In an article by Fred Bell, we read that the book of Matthew and Luke begin their writings by portraying Jesus' genealogy, while Mark begins his book with the ministry of Jesus. John's gospel presents Jesus as God who became flesh, which is found in John 1:1. And in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. In an article written by Matt Slick, the early church believed that the book of Matthew was the first gospel written, and it was written by the Apostle Matthew, who was an eyewitness to Christ himself. Theologians believe that it was written before 70 AD, and the earliest possible was 50 AD. While it is still very strongly debated, the book of Mark has now taken precedence in being the first gospel written. Mark was not an eyewitness of the life of Jesus, but was a disciple of the apostle Peter. Mark was believed to have been written between 55 AD and 70 AD. Luke, being a companion of the Apostle Paul, whom neither were eyewitnesses, wrote the book of Luke, which is believed to have been written before 63 AD. It is believed that the book of John is written between 80 and 90 AD, with possible fragments written as early as 35 years prior. John was an eyewitness making statements as if he was present. Therefore, most scholars have concluded that the Apostle John was the one who wrote the book of John. Can we believe the Gospels? In an article by Dr. Craig Keener, he writes that the Gospels are historically reliable because they were written during the most accurate period of ancient biography, which was the early Roman Empire. The Gospels are written by eyewitnesses and those within living memory, while ancient historians and biographers have had often to depend on legends when they recount events from centuries earlier. The case was very different with the Gospels because they were actual eyewitnesses and first-hand accounts that came from the apostles. The Gospels overlap and were written with intent of information-based works. All four Gospels record miracles and prophecies of Jesus' death and destruction of the temple. All four Gospels depict the life of Jesus as he ministered, died on the cross, and rose again. So what is the reason for the Gospel? As Jeffrey Cran states, each book tells us about the life, ministry, death, and resurrection of Jesus. All four Gospels write about Jesus, how God became man, Jesus' miracles and teachings of what his kingdom was like, Jesus' betrayal, trial, and death, Jesus' resurrection and encouragement to his disciples. One of the leading verses of the Gospels is found in John 3:16, stating how God so loved the world that he gave his one and only Son, that whoever would believe in him would not perish but have everlasting life. See, God created man in Genesis 1:27, but man disobeyed God and sin entered the world, separating us from living in unity with God. Then God sent his Son to give his life as a ransom for sinners, so that through his death, burial, and resurrection, we would have access to God once more. In conclusion, the Synoptic Gospels and John are meant to lead us to Jesus, who has become our salvation. Jesus, being God, became man. He died on the cross, conquered death by being raised to life so that sin would no longer separate us from God. One day he will return for those who have made him Lord, and they will live with God for eternity. Will you believe the good news?